China is done. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain in this video. But first off, welcome everybody here from Guangzhou, mainland China. The last days I've spent traveling here to China again and made it through Hong Kong. A little side story that was kind of funny. I was interrogated by the police. Well, that sounds more bad than it actually was. It was more about getting feedback from me about the immigration process. Because if you're not aware, you're currently free to go to China without a visa if you're living in a couple of European countries and other countries who are part of this program. For me, that was never an issue since I had a business visa anyways. But now I think more and more people should come and see China with their own eyes. And I'm doing that these days again. I will take you with me in a couple of videos, as always. But as you may know, the most important reason why I came to China this time is for Neo Day here in Guangzhou. I also participated in the Design Week here to scout a couple of trends and designs here in China. So been busy already, but now back to the main topic, which is a perceived big fundamental change that's currently happening, in my opinion. So there are a couple of very new and different things that have been announced in the last couple of days. And the most important one, maybe you've seen me tweeting about that in the last week. So on X, my handle is _mm85, and I've been retweeting a couple of articles and takes about China putting export restrictions on the United States. Yes, you've heard me right. This time it's going the other way around, or actually it's a response to the US, which has kept on sanctioning China and Chinese companies about semiconductors and stuff like that, right? And now I think China's done playing games. China had enough and they are changing. And I think this is really, really important to understand because the measure that they've announced last week with banning certain materials going from China into the United States that are very important for different industry applications but have dual use purposes, meaning they can be used for making weapons. Some people also call them death materials. I'm not going to name all of them. I'm not going to talk through all of these different materials and metals that are restricted. But the most important thing that you need to know is that China owns mostly 50%, if not more, sometimes up to 90% of the supply chain for those materials. And sometimes it's not only about the resources itself and the extraction, but more about the refinement actually, okay? And now China has done this huge step of not only talking about it, but this time they feel like they need to really, really send a signal to the United States and say, look guys, you don't get these materials anymore. And I think the West really has been unprepared for this move. I think even by now, I don't see many mass media takes around this topic already, but I think politicians and some companies are now really scrambling to finding solutions. It's maybe similar to what initially happened here in China when the US announced a couple of sanctions on chips, sanctioned Huawei and so on. China needed to find solutions, and we've seen lately how Huawei announced their own new products that are now standalone without any software like Android and so on. They've now brought out phones which are not depending on US chips anymore and stuff like that. So China has done it already, but it took them years, and China's quite savvy at really sourcing such kind of solutions and stuff. Now it's onto the US, because some of these materials are really relevant also for the military applications, which would mean that if they want to resupply their stock of ammunition, for example, or keep on feeding the war in the Ukraine, then they can't go without these materials, or it will become very, very difficult at some point. And so the fact that China is basically sending this signal here should be really perceived by the politicians, and I think also, for example, by Elon Musk, who I think he knows exactly what's the situation here and how this could affect businesses, industry, but also, most importantly, the military. So in that sense, I think it was a smart move by China to announce it finally as a reply to all of these ongoing sanctions, saying, guys, this needs to change. Otherwise, you just don't get any access to this crucial materials anymore. And, you know, Elon Musk, who is, first of all, dependent on China with the plant here in Shanghai, but also on the Chinese market. By the way, Tesla is only growing in China currently, not in the US, not in Europe anymore. So he needs the Chinese market, and he's now being very close to the Trump administration, obviously. So with all of these China hawks in place, which love sanctions and love, holding down China and so on, we've got possibly one guy in his administration now with Elon Musk who really gets the message of this signal, I guess. Now, that's really interesting because I think going forward we will not see a reluctancy by China anymore. And we also see that now today by another news where China announced that they will be more loose on the fiscal policy and possibly, ramp up their monetary policy even more. And so the big change here is that China is not just talking around anymore and trying to negotiate and making deals and stuff. No, this time it's getting very, very serious, and it's getting very serious for the US in particular. So I think with that we should see a change in the approach towards China going forward. I think it must be clear that there is no other way around than finding a solution with China on a couple of matters, that's including sanctions. And I am more optimistic than ever on China's future here of growing out of this geopolitical pain that we've seen for the last couple of years unfolding. Now we also have the rate cuts in place by the United States, and China also loosening up their monetary policy on top of that. So all of the puzzle pieces are getting into place and coming together the way they should be for hopefully a new China bull market. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.